Hi, Joy. It is so wonderful to have you here on the podcast. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to chat all about rosacea today.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm a Canadian, and I want to just say I love your accent.
Well, actually, you may not know this, but I'm Canadian too. Believe
Are
it or
you
not,
really?
I am Canadian. Yes. So
So you were born here.
I was born in Toronto. And then when I was about
Cool.
2 or so, my parents moved back to Australia. But then I met my husband here in Australia. And so then we went back to Canada. We spent 6 years in Vancouver and then 6 years in Toronto because all his family are there.
Wow.
And we moved back to Australia about 5 years ago. So my kids are Canadian. We were back in Canada like in September for like 3 weeks. Yeah. So
Oh
I'm
my
pretty,
gosh, that's so cool. I did
yeah,
not know
yeah.
that. You would
There you
never know
go.
though, because you have a really
Well,
great accent.
yeah. I'm definitely an Aussie, I think, through and through.
Yeah. You
All
said you
right.
came over when you were two?
I was 2 years old. Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
yeah.
So I was Canadian born, Australian raised. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
But then
That's so
12
cool.
years in Canada. So, I know it well. I know
Yeah, oh, I
well.
bet. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in Toronto. That's where I am. I'm in Toronto. I love Vancouver too, though.
Yeah, Vancouver's beautiful. It's just a bit of a rainforest. So for this Aussie who loves
Yes.
the tropics, it was a little, and then Toronto, it
Yeah.
was a little cold.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely cold.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so why don't we get started by you telling the listeners a little bit about yourself, about your background, how you got into health, and then we're going to jump into the topic of rosacea.
Yeah, totally. So I'm a holistic nutritionist, sorry, and I have a background in integrative dermatology. I have, I feel like I've been a student of nutrition my whole life. I've always been really fascinated about the human body and how we metabolize our food. And, in my sort of late teens, early 20s, I had some health issues. I had hormonal imbalance in my hair. You can see my hair here. I had like half the amount of hair
Oh, wow.
that I have on my head now. And I had a lot of anxiety and digestive problems. And I wasn't getting anywhere other than more sick. And I went, from doctor to doctor, specialist to specialist, and was given different medications. One would be to help my digestive issues. Another was for my anxiety. Then I was put on the birth control pill to help balance my hormones. And I was really not getting anywhere other than more sick, feeling worse. But it was funny because it's one of those things like, my friends looking at me would not know that I wasn't well, but I knew how I felt.
Yes.
So, going into my early 20s, I was like, I have to figure something out. Because the conventional method of Western medicine isn't helping me. I'm just getting worse. So that was kind of like when I came to a turning point, like a fork in the road, when I realized that I had to go down a different path. I had to figure something. I had to try something else because what I was doing wasn't working. And then that's when I was kind of that opened my eyes to the world of natural health. Now, that was a while ago. I'm in my mid 40s now, but that is what was sort of like the starting point for me to really open my eyes to see that, wow, there's herbal medicine and there's the power of natural health supplementations. And wow, like the foods I'm eating have such a profound influence on my well-being. So I'm, happy to say that I was able to heal my body naturally. And it wasn't like one single thing that was going on. There was, every condition is sort of multifactorial, which we'll talk about when we get into rosacea. But that was something that's what inspired me to go back to school. By the end of my 20s, I was, working in a full-time marketing and advertising job. And all the while I was taking courses and reading books. And I was like, you know what? I've healed my body from hormonal imbalance naturally. I need to go back and study nutrition. So that's when I decided to go back to school and study holistic nutrition. And here we are today. And I've had the other health issue I had, which inspired so much of what we're talking about today, is when I turned 40, I developed rosacea and it became very severe. And that was something I was able to heal naturally as well. So I love sharing that story because rosacea is a really awful skin condition and it really affects your self-esteem. So sort of coming full circle, I guess, in a way, I like healed from two health conditions naturally. And I love talking about it because I feel that it's my job to help people have more hope. Because
Yeah.
I think people are dealing with a health issue. And that's how I felt at times. You feel hopeless. especially, your doctor's trying to help you. They're doing their best too, but they don't have all of the tools in the toolbox. They're really great with acute care. But helping to prevent chronic disease and dealing with chronic disease and chronic problems, I just don't feel that our system is really set up to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pill for your ill type system, which is valid and
Yes.
needed. But it's like when you have these red flags popping up, which are the symptoms, right? It's the hair loss or it's the skin issues or whatever those symptoms are. That's where the allopathic medicine model lets us down, because it's like, well, you don't have a disease yet. I can't give you a diagnosis yet. I can't give you a pill yet. So it's kind of like, come back when you got a disease and then I can help.
Yeah.
And again, like totally valid. We've all in some way had allopathic medicine help us or help our loved ones. But yeah, there is such a need for this functional sort of holistic approach to health. It's funny because as you were talking, I was like, wow, we have a lot in common. So I also had issues and I went to doctors and got like pills, a birth control pill and other kind of medications. I had skin issues. I had acne though. So I had rosacea. And I think, were you at the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition? Is that where you went?
No, I went to the Institute of Holistic Nutrition. Did you go to CSNN?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
That was my time in Canada, right?
Okay, that's fantastic. Were you did you go in Vancouver or when you were in Toronto?
No, we actually just moved to Toronto and my daughter she just turned 1. And I remember I was in the car and I was umming and ahhing because I was actually, and then the other thing is I had a marketing and advertising background as well. And
oh my gosh, so similar.
I know, so many similarities. So I was actually running this, my own marketing business at the time. And I had this 1-year-old. I was like, oh, do I really want to add that to my plate? But I remember I just was like, no, I have to do it. Something just drove me. And I'm so glad I did. What a great starting point, right? So
yeah, 100%.
Lots of similarities. Awesome. Okay, let's dive into rosacea then. Let's dive into, why don't you start by explaining to the audience, what is rosacea?
Yeah, so rosacea is an inflammatory-based skin condition. It affects a lot of people. Hundreds of millions of people, in fact, around the world have rosacea. And I think that many people have it and don't even know and are treating it the wrong way. A lot of times people think they have acne. So they're they think they have acneic skin when they actually have rosacea. So essentially, it kind of starts out as redness like on the cheeks, as it progresses. So it's redness that doesn't go away. Like it's natural if you're flushing or, if you feel heat on your skin and if you feel embarrassed or nervous, but it's when that doesn't go away and you wake up in the morning and you have just, that redness, then it can progress to bumps. So they can be, that's why it gets confusing, because some people think it's acne, but it's a very different kind of bump. You can get enlarged blood vessels, broken blood vessels. So you often see that with people like around the nose or the cheeks, the blood vessels become much more visible. And the skin can become very dry, along with being oily at the same time. And the skin microbiome is really compromised. In more severe cases, some people get rosacea in their eyes, which can be so irritating. I fortunately did not have that. And as well, as you age, it can it can cause thickening of the skin. And that typically happens more in men than women. But there are, of course, treatment options, if someone has a lot of broken blood vessels, or if someone has that thickening of the skin, there are things you can do. But I feel like some of the things that happen with rosacea that people don't talk about, and it's been found in research that a lot of people with rosacea end up suffering from depression and anxiety just from having a skin condition. It's on your face. And I found that I really struggled with that myself, when my skin was really bad, because I'm a nutritionist. How can it be like I go out and speak publicly all the time? How can I have such terrible skin when I think I'm taking such good care of my body? So I can relate to that. I mean, I wasn't depressed, but I was really struggling with it. I didn't even want to take out my garbage for fear that someone was going to see me. But essentially, it's an inflammatory skin condition.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, I totally understand the mental health aspect of it. I mean, when I had acne, it's different. I had acne.
Yeah.
really bad. And I was like a late teen. And I remember like being,
That's tough.
yeah, I was being cognizant of like where the sun would hit me. And,
Mm,
so I totally get
yeah.
it.
And you always feel like people can see. It's funny. Did you find, because I found this too when I had my skin issues, I was like, everyone's staring at my
Yeah.
skin.
Oh,
You
yeah.
get it in your head that
Mhm.
everyone looks at your skin
Mhm.
like
Oh, yeah.
with a microscope.
Oh yeah. You know what I used to say? I used to say, well, I think maybe it was a little bit of body dysmorphia in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But although my skin was extremely bad, like I had to go on
Hmm.
Accutane twice. And I
Oh,
remember
it's
the
so tough.
dermatologist said, I've never seen skin so bad. But I definitely, my friends would always sort of be amazed at just how much time and energy I spent thinking about what other people were looking at or could see, So yeah,
I
it
can
really
totally relate to that.
is skin issues. Yeah, when it's on your face, it's
Yeah.
quite debilitating. And I
It's
understand what
really
you're
hard.
saying. Yeah, and also for you, like what you were saying, you're a nutritionist. So then, we have that other aspect that's like, well, why? Like, what else are people thinking, right? But this is actually a very important topic that I think people really need to understand is that we are human. And
Hmm.
we are also assaulted by toxins, even if we try our best to eliminate them in our home or whatnot. We are also assaulted by them when we walk
Yeah.
outside, and heavy metals, and we're not immune to stress and things that occur in our lives and hormonal changes. And I had a friend once. I remember when I was first starting out in my nutrition practice, and I was really dealing with a lot of like adrenal issues. And
Hmm.
at the time, I would call it adrenal fatigue, right? And I remember she said to me, "But why? You're in the health field." And I thought, wow, you really think that I am immune to, because I'm not still a human. I'm still going to die
Right.
one day. Am I not supposed to die because I understand health? Like people,
I so appreciate what you're saying right now. Yeah, no one's ever like said it that way before, but you're so right.
yeah, we're just
It's
human.
it like people kind of put you up on this pedestal that you shouldn't have any ever have any health issues.
Exactly. And it's
Yep.
absolutely ludicrous and ridiculous. Okay, so
Hmm.
you mentioned the microbiome. So we're going to let's get into the microbiome. But first, why don't you talk about how rosacea is diagnosed? Is it that like you
Hmm.
have the red rash? Is it the redness? Is it the bumps? Like how can people tell, I guess, the difference between another skin condition and rosacea?
Yeah, it's really hard for the average person to tell. I mean, I knew what I had just from like endless hours of research, but I decided that I would go to a dermatologist just because I wanted to have that diagnosis. And I actually do recommend that if you're not 100% sure what it is, you should probably see a dermatologist and have it diagnosed just because you want to make sure you're treating it the right way. And typically, dermatologists will deem you as having rosacea if you have that redness for kind of more than 3 months. That's kind of like the criteria 3 months, redness. And the other thing is, though, that sometimes rosacea can be confused for other conditions. So it's good to rule things out, like lupus, which is an autoimmune condition. You can obviously have testing for that, and that presents as like a butterfly rash, which is
Right.
actually really similar to rosacea. So it's a good idea to have that ruled out as well. But yeah, I would recommend seeing a dermatologist, but it's up to you, the listen, if someone's listening to this, the typical conventional approach doesn't address the root cause.
Mm.
So, if you're recommended antibiotics, oral antibiotics, and antibiotic creams, and the birth control pill, that's what I was recommended. That's the standard kind of treatment. Ivermectin is becoming very common as well. But if you're recommended those conventional things, just know that you're not getting to the root cause. And in fact, you may be making it worse,
Yeah, right.
especially if you're going on an antibiotic. A lot of times they'll recommend an antibiotic for 3-4 months. That's a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a tsunami for
Oh,
your gut microbiome.
right.
And what's interesting so when I had seen a dermatologist, I was like, okay, so why do you actually recommend an antibiotic for rosacea, which is an
Mm-hmm.
inflammatory
I
condition?
have the same question. I'm really
Yeah.
curious. Like I
Yeah,
understand, like with
and he's
acne, it's recommended a lot. And I also was
right.
on erythromycin for a very long time when I had my
Yes,
acne. You
that's
know,
so common
yeah, it's so common.
with
But
acne.
why for rosacea?
Yeah, so what he said was what they're finding is when people are put on an antibiotic, it actually acts as an anti-inflammatory agent. So
Ah,
that's good, sure, but
mm.
the side effects, right? So you're taking an antibiotic for months on end and you're wiping out all your good and bad bacteria, but you're getting that anti-inflammatory benefit. So the risk far, far outweighs the benefit. You're really not addressing the root cause.
Isn't that the weirdest thing though? Because if you're wiping out, you're obviously wiping out the good with the bad, but if you're wiping out the good, those good bacteria are anti-inflammatory. That's one of the
Yes,
main
yes.
roles in the gut. So long term, I don't understand how maybe short term, I don't really understand the mechanism, but maybe short term it's anti-inflammatory, but long term it would exacerbate the issue and make things much worse, I would think.
It 100% does. And when I really dove into, like, when you have a skin condition, you become an absolute
Oh,
expert.
oh,
So,
trust me. When I had I was
right?
still a teenager though. I wasn't in the health world, so I was an expert on makeup and skincare products.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Covering it up,
A lot of
right?
toxins, a lot of
Oh,
toxins.
yeah, for sure. All those
Mhm.
hormone disruptors.
Yeah.
But when you have that condition, you become an expert and you dive into Reddit and forums and blogs and you go deep and you see what other people are seeing. And I could not believe the number of people saying, because I was looking up all of these different medications. Oh, I was on it for 3 months. Oh, I was on it for 2 years. And what the consistent feedback was from other people was, I took this for rosacea and it got better for a little bit, but then it got way worse.
I
There was
bet.
no one saying, other than the drug companies,
Yeah.
that it cleared their skin, because you're not addressing the root cause and you're potentially making things a lot worse. Because, as you mentioned, the gut microbiome, those microbes can increase and decrease inflammation. So if you are taking an antibiotic that is reducing the diversity of your gut microbes, especially the good ones, then that is really going to impact inflammation. And that is one of the ways that the skin microbiome is affected by the gut microbiome because of inflammation. And your gut and your skin are always in conversation.
Yeah.
What your skin like literally sends molecules and information to your skin on what to react to, what not to react to, how much oil you should produce in your skin. So it's a bidirectional relationship between the gut and the skin. So that's why whenever there's a skin issue, and I'm sure you're a nutritionist and this is something you probably dove into with your acne as well, but whenever there's a skin condition there, you always have to look at what is going on with the gut. How can you support the gut? How
Yeah.
can you support your gut health?
Absolutely, yes. A very good point. Microbiome is everything, right? And so then we've got the gut microbiome, but you were also talking previously about, I think, the skin microbiome, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe explain a little about what's the difference between the two. And then perhaps we can dive into like, what can we do? Well, maybe we'll then talk about, are there any other factors? So the gut, obviously,
Mhm.
microbiome, but what about hormones? So
Yeah.
let's maybe dive into those two topics.
Yeah, sure. So the skin microbiome is essentially the invisible microorganisms that live on your skin. And, depending on what part of the body it is, you have different types of microbes. So obviously in areas like your armpits, you're going to have slightly different microbial populations than that live on your skin. Interestingly, many of the same microbes that live on your skin also live in your gut. And a sign of a healthy skin microbiome is one with lots of diversity. In fact, when scientists have looked at skin microbiomes of people with acne, people with eczema, people with rosacea, they always find an abundance of a few types of microbes, but a low diversity overall. Always when there's skin issues, there tends to be a low diversity of microbes. But the skin microbiome is one of the most important factors of the skin microbiome is to regulate inflammation in the skin. The other thing is the skin microbiome acts as it's part of your skin barrier function. And your skin barrier is essentially your protective layer between your skin and like the outside world. So like allergens and pollutants and sun and wind and heat and cold, anything that can, affect your skin microbiome is very important because it's part of your skin barrier function. And so if your skin microbiome is off, and there's many reasons that can be, everything from stress to like what your skincare is, then it's very easy to develop a skin problem. And in fact, we see many different like pharmaceuticals, different treatments for different skin conditions can cause other skin conditions. So in fact, many people who use acne treatments like harsh cleansers and soaps and stuff often develop rosacea and have kind of a mix of acne and rosacea because they have such a compromised skin microbiome, and that skin barrier function is so compromised. So they become so, like when people say they have really sensitive skin, it's more that their skin is sensitized. I would really look into like, what is the health of, like, what's the lipid barrier of your skin? Like how much moisture is your skin producing? What is your skin microbiome doing? I mean, it's hard to like, if someone doesn't know, like, what is my skin microbiome doing? But if you're using a lot of products that are stripping your skin too alkaline for your skin, affecting the skin microbiome, you're kind of setting the stage to develop a skin issue or make a skin issue you already have worse.
Right. Okay. So why don't we touch on a little bit more about what disrupts that skin microbiome? So the products are really important. I don't know if you want to go into that in any more detail product-wise.
Yeah, I totally can talk about that.
Okay, so maybe we'll talk a little bit about products, and then what else do we have to think about when it comes to the topical microbiome? There's not a lot of talk about this, I feel.
No.
Talk about the gut microbiome, but topical skin microbiome, I feel like we could talk more deeply about that. And what affects it, and what should we really be thinking about to support that microbiome?
Yeah, so if we think of it from a skincare perspective, things that affect the skin microbiome are using foaming cleansers. So cleansers that have ingredients like SLS. SLS is a very harsh surfactant. So any sort of product that foams, if even natural products that have foaming cleansers from like a cocoa glucoside, which is a natural SLS, a lot of natural companies use cocoa glucoside in foaming in skin products. But even that, it's just the foaming action. A surfactant's job is to basically degrease your skin. It's fine for hair. I mean, I don't recommend SLS-based products for hair, but it's fine to have a foaming action for your hair. But for your face, you want to be gentle with your skin, even if you have really oily skin. So, really try and limit products that have any sort of foaming agents in them, even if they're natural and organic, because that can really affect your skin microbiome and your barrier function, because you're stripping away that natural oil barrier. And that natural oil barrier is really what protects your skin and also prevents your skin from aging, prevents your skin from you don't want premature aging. Aging is natural, right? We want to age gracefully, but premature aging. Premature aging, we do not want.
That. No, thank you.
Right? No. So the drier your skin is, the more wrinkles are going to be obvious. So the other ingredients to watch out for in skincare are synthetic preservatives. We all know, like, you see so many products say paraben free. Yeah. Parabens are essentially an antimicrobial. So you don't see parabens very often anymore. However, that is a greenwashing term, because a lot of conventional beauty products, they say paraben free right on the front, and it's misleading because you think, okay, it must be clean and natural. Yeah. But what the industry has done is they've just slid in there other chemicals like formaldehyde based preservatives, other hormone disrupting chemicals. So they've just put other chemicals in there, and preservatives and antimicrobials. Sure, they're great maybe for that product because they, extend the shelf life. They prevent that product from growing mold. But if you're using that on your face, if you're washing once or twice a day, you're literally washing your face with these preservatives. And so what is that doing to your skin microbiome? So really, like, read your labels. If you're using a skincare product that doesn't have water in it, Waterless, I'm a huge fan of that. If you're using a waterless skincare product, it might not even need to have any preservatives because water is what breeds bacteria. So many cleansers and hair care products have water as the first ingredient. So I'm always really, I'm all about waterless skincare. And with hair care too, look for ingredients instead of water, look for aloe. Aloe is a wonderful ingredient in hair care. Because it helps to cleanse your hair. It doesn't strip. Aloe, you sometimes see that in creamy based skincare cleansers, but also organic vegetable glycerin. That's what we use in our Hello Joyous cleanser. But glycerin is an amazing, I feel like it's a totally underrated skincare ingredient because not only is it a great carrier of botanicals, but it's also a humectant. So that means it attracts water to your skin. And when you wash your face with a cleanser that instead doesn't use water, uses glycerin, your skin feels nice and silky after, which is hard for a lot of people because a lot of people think I wash my face, it should feel tight and dry.
Yeah, squeaky sort of clean. Yeah, that tightness.
Squeaky clean. Yeah, so many people, you'd not believe how many people still have that misconception that their face needs to feel like squeaky clean. No, if you feel that you have stripped your skin microbiome and your barrier function, and you are setting yourself up to have potentially skin problems, more sensitive skin, age faster. So yeah, that's something to consider is all those preservatives. And the final thing I want to mention is fragrance. Fragrance, when you see fragrance listed on a label, it'll say fragrance or perfume. And when you see that listed, as you probably know, that could mean hundreds of different chemicals. And if you have sensitive skin, you literally have no idea what chemical you could be potentially reacting to. And the other thing is that fragrance almost always has phthalates, and phthalates are known as the everywhere chemical, and they are literally everywhere in the lakes and the oceans, in our foods. And phthalates are hormone disrupting chemicals. They're literally plastic molecules that hold on to scent. So if you use the example of perfume, like if someone sprays with perfume and you give someone a hug, and then you get that smell in your hair or on your shirt, that's because phthalates have have like glued that smell to you. So avoid when it comes to skincare products. I'm very anti-fragrance. And you have to be careful with essential oils too, because are they natural? Where are they sourced? Have they, do they have any phthalates? And phthalates are not listed on a label. You only know a product has phthalates if in fact it has fragrance or perfume. Then it could potentially have, hundreds of different chemicals. So those are kind of from a skincare, and I mentioned hair care too, perspective. Those are some of the, because like when we talk about hair care, we're talking about the skin too, because your hair is only as healthy as your scalp.
A good point.
So I feel like so often we focus on like, how can we have healthy hair by like supporting hair, but actually you want to support the scalp. Yeah. And support, so you want to be careful what you use in your hair too.
Absolutely. Wow. That was incredible. I did not know a lot of that stuff. So you mentioned your skincare line. Was that inspired after you had the rosacea? Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit?
So what happened was I was using for many years, I was using a natural organic product and they're like sold all over the world. And I probably was I've been using natural stuff probably since the early 2000s, maybe 2002 was when I started using more natural stuff. So I was using like a coconut milk based cleanser. And I couldn't understand, even though when I used it on my skin, it didn't irritate my skin, but it wasn't helping my skin. And I didn't realize until I really started to research rosacea, because I was using it when I had rosacea, that it was way too alkaline. And then I dove down this whole rabbit hole of researching and understanding like the acid mantle of your skin and how the cleansers you use on your skin can literally increase the alkalinity of your skin. And your skin is actually a little bit more acidic. Like your skin is around anywhere between like a 4.7 to like a 5.75 on the pH scale. And those kind of milk-based cleansers and soaps are like a 9 to 10.
Oh, wow.
So that is way too alkaline. So that was one of the factors. So I've always been into skincare. And so when I started tinkering with different like skincare and like skincare ingredients, when we finally came out with our skincare in April of 2021. So it hasn't
Mhm.
even been that long. Like my skin really only started to heal. I was doing things in like 2020. It was starting to
Mhm.
heal, but it wasn't until I was full on, like about 3 months into using our skincare, that it truly transformed my skin. And I know a huge part of it was supporting the right pH of my skin. Like my skin was starting to get better with like the dietary lifestyle changes, but it really went from, I had mild rosacea to I had no rosacea
Wow.
once I got into the right skincare regime and using a toner. Like so many people don't realize the importance of using like a hydrosol, using a toner before you apply your serum, just to help adjust your skin's pH. So I feel like that's another sort of underrated thing to talk about, is like the acid mantle and the pH of your skin, and how important that is to maintain the integrity of the skin barrier and the skin microbiome by
Oh, yeah.
having the right, like your skin needs to be a little bit more acidic.
Yeah, the products. See, it is not talked a lot about in our industry. A lot of what we talk about is
Mm-hmm.
hormonal or,
Right.
internal. There's not a lot of talk about topical. And that's certainly not something that I know a lot about, topical and, what products I should be using. So I find this all very fascinating, and I'm really excited to have a look at your line. And I'm sure we can talk about this at the end, but where do you ship?
Yeah, yeah, we ship all over the world. We
Oh,
ship
good.
international.
Good
Yeah,
to know.
we have some customers in Australia. I mean, the shipping's a little bit more. That's the
It is,
only
yeah. Well,
crappy thing.
I always say we're down here at the arse end of the world because we get nothing. Let me tell you,
Oh,
yeah, it might be beautiful and we may live on an island, but we don't get a lot of the. I loved living in Canada because you got access to so much great.
yeah, so much in the US as well, right?
Exactly, exactly. All right, amazing. So we know now that topical, what we put on our skin topically, is actually very, very, very important.
Hmm.
So yeah, the gut microbiome, of course, very important, but you might need to go that one step further and have a look at what you're actually putting on your skin. And then, I suppose also, what about makeup? That's a
Yes,
whole
yeah.
other topic of
When
conversation.
and that's a big struggle, and I'm sure you experienced that too when you had acne. It's like the struggle between like, okay, you want to cover it up, but you're just making it worse.
Yeah.
And so what I found was I tried so many different foundations. I literally had perfect skin up until 39 years old. I
Oh.
never wore foundation my whole life. Then I turned 40, and that's when the rosacea started to develop. So I started trying different foundations, and I just found all of them made my skin so much worse.
Mhm.
So, with the clogging of the pores and affecting your skin's pH and all those things. So, one thing that I did find, so of course I recommend when it comes to makeup, like look for, fragrance-free, natural ingredients, as clean as possible, because there's so many ingredients in conventional beauty products that can be triggering, that can be hormone disrupting. Even when a product is labeled as hypoallergenic, you still have to be careful, because there can be masking. There can be chemicals that mask scent and
Mhm.
chemicals that change the color of the product. So even though it's called hypoallergenic because it's, clear or it's white, it seems like it's, it's not going to bother your skin. It has no scent. That can actually mean there's other chemicals in there as well. So that's something to consider. But one thing I found, and on my blog, I can send you the resource for this about some different natural makeup brands. But one thing I discovered, and I'm sure you know this, was how different colors of powder can mask.
Mhm.
If you have, so with rosacea being red, and obviously people of color, people of brown skin, black skin, they get rosacea too. It
Yeah.
just manifests as a different color, but you still get that heat.
Yep.
But I discovered, wow, the power of a green powder. So it's using like a
Mm-hmm.
natural base, like green powder
Yeah.
on my cheeks when I found like I was having a bad flare up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you found when you had acne, if you found that the makeup made it worse, but I found that makeup always kind of made my rosacea more irritated.
I mean, it probably did. I mean, this was such a long time ago now, back in my teenage years. It was just so bad. I'm sure what I was doing, how I was eating, products I was using. I mean, they were all chemically products, I was all into Yves Saint Laurent and like,
Yeah,
all big names,
me
right?
too. Back
Touche
then.
Black or whatever it's called. And yeah, no, I'm sure it wasn't helping. All right. So let's talk about any hormonal factors associated with.
Hmm. Yeah, so hormones play a huge role. And the thing is, with rosacea or any sort of skin condition, this might be frustrating for people to hear, but they need to hear the truth that there's never really one single cause. It's always multifactorial, meaning there are various factors that are causing your skin issues, and skin issues can be, I would say they're some of the hardest things to deal with. But when it comes to hormones, a lot of people notice that when they're ovulating or when they get close to their period, their skin is worse. So the changes in the fluctuating estrogen levels for women who are menstruating, estrogen can really affect vasodilation, so redness of the skin. So when we talk about rosacea in particular, depending on how balanced your hormones are throughout the month, when estrogen is higher, or for women who have estrogen dominance, that can make rosacea a lot worse because the skin is just so much more easy to flush. And then as well with aging, as early as our 30s, like some women are going into perimenopause as early as their 30s. And with the decline in estrogen as we age, estrogen is what keeps our skin and our body nice and juicy. And so as estrogen starts to decline, our skin tends to get drier, and rosacea is really, really common in women in their 40s and their 50s. And one of those factors is for sure that decline in estrogen and just that lack of moisture in the skin. So making sure that you are using really good quality serums or moisturizers is key, so you can combat, because there's, of course, unless you want to consider like bioidentical hormones, it's just a natural part of aging. Our progesterone declines, our estrogen declines. This makes our skin drier. But yeah, the declines in estrogen. So I mentioned like high estrogen makes your skin flush more, but then lower estrogen also affects your skin by making it drier. Yeah. And then of course, stress, cortisol is a hormone, and stress is a huge, huge factor. We have receptors for cortisol in our skin. And so when we're stressed out, that can cause more vasodilation. It can increase inflammation, and can make symptoms of rosacea, acne, eczema. I would say every skin condition is definitely affected by stress, and especially with acne, because people who have acneic skin, when you are stressed, then your skin naturally actually produces more oil and sebum, which can increase, clog the pores. Then when you have high levels of cortisol, the healing of the skin is slowed as well, which can be really frustrating if you have those bumps associated with rosacea. A lot of people get them like on their chin, on their cheeks. And then, with acne as well, like you want your skin to heal fast. And then finally, cortisol, being a hormone, can activate mast cells, which can make the skin feel itchy and irritated. So can that in of itself can make your skin issues worse. And then we know cortisol affects all the sex hormones. Cortisol affects progesterone. Progesterone is like one of our chill, calming hormones. So there's a lot of hormonal factors, but it's kind of a lot to unwrap. But I would say that someone listening to this, take note of when you have a skin flare up, like where are you on your cycle? What's going on? Could it be that you have estrogen dominance? Could it be that the ratio of progesterone and there are tests, of course. So when I was going through my issues, I had the Dutch test, a hormone test. Do you have that in Australia?
Oh yeah, no, I've run hundreds of Dutch tests.
Oh, so you do that in your practice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So all your listeners, they should come and do the Dutch test with you. I found that really informative for myself personally, because I found out I had estrogen dominance. So I was like, okay, so there's things I need to do nutritionally and supplement wise. And that was, so that was just like one of those factors where I was like, oh, I'm starting to see like my skin just feels less angry. Like it was less of those like flare-ups where I didn't mention this, I don't think, in the beginning about what is rosacea, but a really common symptom of rosacea is your skin feels hot.
Sure.
Like you feel like you could fry an egg on your skin.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, and it can be so related to where you're at in your cycle if
Yeah.
your hormones are kind of all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh gosh, no, that hormonal component is so fascinating. And you touched on so many hormones, and yeah, you could talk about that forever, right?
Oh my gosh, totally,
Yeah.
totally.
I mean, estrogen absolutely has that. It plays in with that histamine response, and
Mhm.
then progesterone can come.
Right,
You were saying like progesterones are calming and our soothing hormone, but it also helps with the histamine response. It helps to tamp
right.
down that histamine response. And yeah, so getting those hormone levels as optimal as you can. And then the thing with the hormones is, right, as you know, it's like balancing them, right? It's not
Yeah.
the individual. It's like, well, estrogen has to be balanced with progesterone, and estrogen
Mm,
has to be balanced with testosterone. And yeah, it's a bit of a rabbit hole, isn't it? But
it is.
it is. And interesting what you were saying about stress, and I was just having a ding, ding, ding moment because when I had my acne, my
Hmm.
childhood was not peaceful and calm. There was a lot of
Oh, I'm sorry.
yelling and stuff. But isn't that interesting? Because my daughter's she's like 12 now, and I'm
Okay.
monitoring and hoping she doesn't go through what I went through. And I think she should be much better off because of, how she eats and the knowledge I have. But yeah, that stress piece is so important.
So huge.
It's absolutely huge. And I think a lot of the times, I don't know about you with your clients, but with my clients, we'll tell them like you must manage your stress, and we'll give them tips and tools and strategies. But we're living in this go, go, go lifestyle that it's very resisted, right? Just
Mm,
slowing down and doing nothing and deep breathing or meditation, whatever, it's so resisted. But the power in reducing your stress and how you related it physiologically, I think helps. It's going to help with that cortisol and reduce that cortisol. And then you're going to see it in your health and your skin. And yeah, there's just a huge, huge power in stress reduction that people sometimes don't want to hear because
yeah, it can be hard because
it can
people are
be
like, oh,
hard.
I don't have time for that.
I don't have time
But
for
I feel
that.
like
Yeah.
people can get really motivated when they're like, okay, so this could improve my skin.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. All right, so we've touched on the microbiome, topical gut microbiome, hormonal factors. So why don't we sort of wrap things up? What are the best next steps? If somebody is sitting here listening and they're like, my gosh, I think I might have rosacea, what
Hmm.
is the best next step for them, do you think?
Well, I would say like get a diagnosis so
Yeah,
that you know for sure, so that you're not mistreating it,
yeah,
and take comfort in knowing that you can heal your skin. I feel like I am the poster child for you can heal your skin because
awesome.
I had really bad rosacea, and I feel if I can do it naturally, then anyone can. And the first place to start is with an anti-inflammatory diet. So look at your diet. The first thing I would say is sugar. Address how much sugar are you eating because that affects everything that we just
Oh,
talked about. Affects your
absolutely.
gut microbiome, right? Affects your blood. We didn't even talk about blood sugar.
Blood
That's a whole
sugar.
other factor.
Yeah, yeah.
Affects your hormones,
Mhm.
inflammation. So address how much sugar and refined carbohydrates you're eating and eat an anti-inflammatory diet. I think that's a really good place to start.
Perfect. Yeah. I've been sugar-free almost 100% for, gosh, coming on to 4 weeks now. So
That's
pretty.
amazing. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel good. It's funny you should ask me that today because I also started on, have you heard of Prolon? It's a fasting mimicking diet. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So I'm kind of messing things up today, sort of
Yeah.
fasting as well. So I don't know. We'll see how I
Oh,
go.
right, because it's the morning for you, right?
It is the morning, yeah, it's the morning. So, and I'm only just started it, so it's 5 days. So we'll see. But the
Oh,
sugar
cool. You have
free,
to let me know.
yeah, I will. But the sugar-free aspect of what I've been doing, yeah, it's fantastic. And I think what people don't realize is that you need to give your body, you do need to go sort of cold turkey and give your
Yes,
body 3 to 5 days, maybe 7 if you're a real sugar addict. But once you get over that hump, you don't crave it anymore.
it's
And
really true.
it's incredible. The what it does to your neurochemistry, your hormones. You know, if you don't eat it, you don't crave it. And so it's just
Yeah,
getting to that
I
initial.
totally agree.
Yeah.
I used to be a total sugar addict
Me
in my
too.
20s. Like
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
used to eat the large bag of M&Ms, the peanut
Mm. Oh
M&Ms.
yeah, yum.
I feel like, yeah, I was a total sugar addict and
Yeah.
I broke free. And now
Yeah.
I don't even
Yeah.
I don't like super sweet stuff. I'm
No.
totally,
It
you lose
changes
your
you.
taste for it.
You do
You
lose your
do.
taste for it. And I think also when you start to eat in an anti-inflammatory way, you don't
Mm,
want to grab those processed foods. You look at them so much more differently. And you know what's interesting? There were foods that I would eat like when I was a teenager or even in my 20s that I thought were just so delicious, like processed foods, right?
yeah.
And I've tried them as, you know, more in adulthood, just have like a cracker here and there, like, oh, I remember them being so yum, I'll just try that. And it does not taste anything like how I remembered it. You know,
It's
you
so
really,
true.
yeah, you can really change your perception, your taste. Yeah.
You do. Yeah, that's a
Okay.
great point.
So, where can people find you? Because you are, I feel like anybody who has a skin condition, it sounds like you've done your research and your products sound incredible. So, you know, you've got blog posts, right? You've got a podcast. Tell everybody where they can find you. And of course, I'll put it all in the show notes as well.
Thank you so much. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this chat.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we connected. So thanks so much for having me here. So you can find me Joyous Health. So JOYOUS Health.com is where I share hundreds of free recipes and articles on healthy living. I love talking about healthy living, beauty, and food. Those are like my three favorite things. On Instagram as well. And you can find our skincare brand, which I co-founded with my hubby, is Hello Joyous. So you can just look. So Joyous Health and Hello Joyous, easy to remember. We're on social media and yeah.
Cool.
Oh, and
Thank
my
you.
podcast too. Joyous Health
Oh,
Podcast.
Joyous Health Podcast. All right. We'll list it all in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time today. It was an absolute
Thank
pleasure
you.
speaking with you.
Thanks so much.